All right, y'all. Okay, so a couple of announcements today. I'm going to start with two things that are not the primary focus of this. But I've been creating a bunch of resources over the last couple of weeks, and I put the finishing touches on two resources that may help you or they may help a family member. The first one is I've created a recipe guide that goes along with a lot of the videos that I've been posting that pairs really well with the macro matrix. So you guys all know this. My goal is, when we talk about changing behaviors, it's amazing how a simple change or like a simple thing of support will actually keep something from just being knowledge and turns it into action. Does that make sense? Like if Cindy Lou, if you and I talk and we say, okay, this is what I want you to do this week. But if we don't like write that down anywhere and if it's not actionable, you know how it's like way less likely that it's actually going to happen.
Right.
So and Penny, this would apply to you too, as we've talked a lot about the meal matrix, but what I want to do is continue to provide more resources for you to eat really delicious food quickly using this format. And this would apply, Jennifer, the same thing with you. You've been like eating pretty good, but then you've been missing some of those macros. And so I'm giving you just kind of another level of resources for this.
So where is it located, Andrew?
So I'll send this out.
Okay.
Yes, I'll email this to you.
So it's not on our drive.
I could add it to your drive as well. If you want me to add it to your drive, you could literally just shoot me an email, say I want the recipes added to my drive. I can do that.
Or I can save it to my drive under shared, I guess. Okay.
Sure. Some people
I don't like going through all your emails to try to find that link.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to.
It'll be like a downloadable PDF. So you could download it from there, like however.
And then put it anywhere. Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's a good question. Like, that's why I'm bringing this up, because I want everybody to just be able to have it, click on it. And at the end of every recipe is a real quick video that I've made and put probably on Facebook or something. Now, for some people that don't have Facebook, I'm going to upload these videos to YouTube. But right now I'm just linking to Facebook because that's just a good place for people to get continuing exposure. So that's why I'm driving people there. I have done my overnight oats recipe here. So Penny, you haven't made those yet, but you'll see that you can literally do that in 5 minutes.
I did. I made them last night.
Oh, perfect.
And I ate it this morning.
How were they?
It was okay.
It's okay. You can play with the recipe. It'll get better. If the first couple times I had it, it was okay, but now I've like kind of perfected it. It's been delicious. So these recipes are there. There's another one. Let's stop sharing my screen real quick. So those recipes, I'm going to continue to add to that list. That's
up to Tennessee 72
pretty soon, because I'm just putting a lot of emphasis on actually creating those resources. So I'm going to continually add to that list. Now, this does not affect everybody, but it's going to be really helpful for the people that it's helpful for. Has anybody heard of a low FODMAP?
72 east, 6 miles.
I can't hear him when she's talking.
No, I've never heard of a low FODMAP.
Okay, if you haven't heard of it, it sounds crazy. If you have heard of it, you know. If you know. Basically, there are certain foods, if you have IBS, bloating, diarrhea, like consistent gut discomfort, one of the biggest reasons for that is there are certain foods that provide sugars that specific bacteria love, and those specific bacterial populations can explode in your gut, and it causes all kinds of dysfunction. So if you're having consistent inflammation, diarrhea, things like that, a lot of these, it doesn't mean that these foods are unhealthy per se. It just means that these foods, FODMAP means it's referring to like a bunch of science words. It's like, let's see, I've got it down here. I always forget. Fermentable oligosaccharide, disaccharides, monosaccharides. Saccharides are just sugars, and polyols. So it's literally just fermentable sugars. And this is a way to identify the foods that have fermentable sugars. Again, if you've never heard of a FODMAP, this just sounds crazy. If you have heard of a FODMAP, you know how complex following a FODMAP diet is and how much information there is out there. So I've developed kind of just like a 3-step process to removing the trouble foods, incorporating the foods that are low FODMAP, and then reintroducing those trouble foods so that you can either establish a healthy gut or to find your long-term triggers. Cindy Lou, this might actually be something that could help you. We can talk about that at some point, but you would be a good candidate for something like this in the future.
I think so too.
Yeah. And I think like you do have the goal of this. This is not a long-term diet. This is an intervention. Nobody would say this is a long-term diet. It's an intervention. And the goal is to purge that bacteria out and to reestablish, to literally be able to reestablish those foods. Usually people will find there's a couple of things on this that they're never going to be able to eat, but they can reestablish their ability for most of those things. All right.
Okay.
I'll leave those there for now. I'm just going to throw those out there. The recipes and this. Do you have something, Cindy Lou?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, yeah. I'll just leave these there for now. I don't need to go into too many more details, but I want you to know that this exists. If you need the low FOD, we've probably already talked about it, or we'll talk about it soon. Now I want to go into our master behavior sheet. This, I'm really excited about this. I've been working with this for, gosh, probably 2 months to make sure. I mean, in some ways I've been working on it for 2 months. In other ways I've been working on it for 3 years. Because this is kind of, I've continually refined the check-in process. My goal is that this should be something that doesn't take any longer than your current check-in process, but it's sort of able to help support you better for the long term and have a place to put all that tricky data that we maybe haven't had space for in the past. So I have added this to most people's Google Drive at this point, but I do it in like stages. So I added it to everybody's, but then there was a couple of bugs that I actually needed to fix. So I've definitely added it to, everybody's, but like I'll make sure that it's updated by the check-in call we have. So the next check-in call we have, I will, on the call, I'll copy and paste all your old data over to this new sheet so that we have it, so that you don't miss anything and so that you don't have to do that on your own. I'll do that for you, but doing it over a call will be helpful. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you. If you, and Penny, I just mentioned this to you, like if you've been taking morning glucose, remember we haven't been able to like I've had people email that to me, but I don't want you to spend a ton of time, like I don't want you to lose that data. We want to have that stored somewhere so that in 6 months, we can figure out kind of where your baseline is going. So Penny, can you see the screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been taking your morning glucose pretty much every morning. So what you can do is, just like what you do with your average weight, I've got average weight, average blood pressure, average morning glucose, and average evening glucose. Penny, what you can do is you can just come down here and throw in your weekly numbers, 120, 104, and then say you missed a couple of days, that's fine. You just throw in 91. And then all you need to do is just put that number in over here. I think it was 101. Is that what it was? You put that number in 108, sorry. And then the next week, you can just plug in your averages again, and they can be different averages. So I would just clear these out. And then the next week, maybe you get 104, 103, maybe you just take it twice. And then you can come over here and put 103. So we don't need to see those averages. We don't need to see the daily input for the rest of your life, but we are going to want to be able to look back and say, hey, when your weight was decreasing last September, you know, your blood glucose looked great, or your blood glucose was going higher. So does that make sense? We do that for morning glucose, evening glucose, and blood pressure. Is that pretty?
Yes.
All right. So great. We'll be able to look at all that in one place. And obviously, same thing with your steps. Now, the behavior roadmap, this is almost totally new. This is one of the pieces that I'm really excited about. If say you need a food tracking break, or say you're having a hard time consistently tracking your food, we can still look at the critical behaviors that you need to be doing. So say, Cindy Lou, say you get a diet fatigue and you're tired of being in your app tracking. Well, that's we still want to be able to commit to certain behaviors and look at your sort of performance of those behaviors in the long term and bring your focus to them, just like we would bring your focus to your individual macronutrients. And so this sheet is a way to design your specific behavioral priorities that are not related to tracking necessarily. So Penny, we might say, hey, Penny, over the next month, all I want you to do, the biggest thing I want you to focus on is I want you to get your steps. I want you to do like a daily prayer, and I want you to make sure that you're training in the gym. And we could just prioritize those things and track your progress in those behaviors over time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is just a good way to actually, again, this isn't going to take you more time. You would just I would just have you maybe say just come to this paper and tell me, did you pray every day? And then you can just kind of input that. And I'll show you individually your goals here. These are very specific. These are not, I can change all these things. But what it's going to help you do is look not just at your next month, 2 months. All right? Because remember, you can change, you can knock off 15 pounds, you can knock off 20 pounds. But if you actually haven't really mastered doing these basics, sitting less and walking more, spending time in gratitude, consistent meal structure, training regularly, sleeping pretty well, you're not going to be able to maintain those results. So this is going to help us make sure you're participating in the foundation of behaviors. Any questions on that?
No, so you're going to go over that individually next week when on our calls.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like I'll make sure that we don't even I can hide anything on this page that you don't need to look at, so that you look at it and just understand it immediately. And this is going to be highly individualized. So yeah, so you don't need to worry about that right now. Okay, the last page though, this is a really exciting page. I want you to have this spreadsheet. I want you to send this spreadsheet to your family member. I want you to have this for the long term, primarily maybe for this last page. This last page, I deleted a bunch of data, but let's see. You could go to if I hadn't deleted data, you can see how weight and calories progress over time. But this is where we can input all of your labs. So if you have a history of your A1C, your glucose, your insulin, your HOMA score, and I can change this to incorporate any labs that you want to look at regularly. And the reason why this is so helpful is I want this to be something that you can take to your provider before your annual physical, because usually your provider, they have an electronic medical record, which only lets you look at one lab at a time. And so they have a really hard time tracking your results over the long term. It's not their fault. It's just like the system isn't set up for them to track but you can show them this and they will understand your specific issues at a much faster rate, and they're going to give you better advice. Also, you can have your medication list and dosage right next to it. That will help me if you're on like a blood pressure medication, you're about to diet, but it's also going to help your provider when you're at your next physical. You can also input your body composition pictures here very easily as well. I could show you all how to do that either individually, or I might send out a loom of what that would look like. Hey, Carol, can you hear me?
Hey, sorry,
Hey.
I forgot.
Oh, no worries. I've recorded this, but what I wanted to show you, Carol, is we've got a couple of new sheets here. The main tracking sheet looks about the same, but we've got you've got an ability to average your blood pressure and glucose. I've added a behavior tracking sheet, which is going to help you track, like, are you participating in the main behaviors? The biggest thing that made me realize that I need this sheet is for people that like say they work out 3 times a week, or they are a part of a workout group that meets 3 times a week. But the problem is it's really hard for people to actually understand how often they're actually working out over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Because if you go on vacation once every 4 or 5 months and you miss a whole week or a whole 2 weeks, you just tanked your averages. So the main thing on this sheet is going to help you track objectively how much you actually working out each week. Now this, Carol, is how you're going to track your labs. And this is a great thing that you can take to your physician or to any kind of annual wellness visit, or if you've ever got a specific issue, you're going to see a specialist, you can bring to them all your labs at a clip with your current medications and supplements, and they can understand your situation a lot faster. Carol, I was telling them that in an electronic medical record, usually you can only see a specific date, the lab of a specific date, and they're all in different orders. And so they have a really hard time actually seeing how you're progressing. This, they could glance at it very, very quickly and get a really good picture of where you are.
On the labs, you've got the color coding red and green.
Yes.
Have you just entered into the reference ranges for those parameters, and are they different for male versus female?
These are if they're different for male and female, I make a note. So like this one is different, body fat percentage is different for male and female. These are the reference ranges that LabCorp uses. Quest might have a slightly different LabCorp, or might have a different range, or some specific providers might have a different range that they prefer. But these numbers are based on, basically it's red if you're outside of the LabCorp function.
Right. No, I got it now. And you've got it programmed to be able to turn it red if it's above and green if it's
Exactly.
within. Okay.
Exactly.
And then where's it picking up the data for the graph that's to the left? Where is that data coming from?
That is coming from your main tracking sheet.
Okay.
So if
It's just lifting that. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see it.
And this goes for a long time, like at least a year. So you can be able to look at your weight progress sort of at a. I do think the thing that's going to be sort of most helpful for a lot of people is long-term, like just remember you have this lab reading and you can change it. I can help you. Like you might not be taking CRP, Jennifer, you might be taking, well, I got thyroid down here, but you might be taking another number. We could just kind of switch that around and put that in there.
Right. No, I understand. And I'm sure you can even add another column if you have 4 labs. Or anyway, okay.
Exactly. All right. I think that's it. I think that's a pretty good time for that. This was a little bit more like, this is a little bit more logistical, but here's the encouragement of this training. Here's why I'm going to call this a training is, did y'all see the post that I put in Facebook about the percentage of Americans that are participating in healthy behaviors?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You remember what
Yes.
that number was?
3.
Less than 3. I think it's 2.7.
Unbelievable.
So here's what I'm always sort of remembering this as a coach, but I've got to remember it all the time, is the information. It doesn't matter what information we're giving. Most people know they should be exercising. They're not doing it at all. Most people know they should be eating healthy. Even the metric that they used for eating healthy in that study was terrible. But the whole point is we need to get a lot better at helping people actually change and engage these behaviors. And what gets measured gets managed. And so one of the things that I can do as a coach is help you measure the things that matter. And for example, when I help a client identify that they're actually only working out twice a week when they thought they were working out 3 times a week, that helps them say, you know what, I think I need to schedule 4 sessions a week. And then when I do that, I can do that most weeks, but then when I get busy, I'm still hitting my 3-week average. So hopefully this helps you measure the things that you really know you need. And in 3 years, plug in your data, compare your labs, compare your body composition for what you have this month, and figure out where you are, see how you're progressing. So this is a long-term resource for you. I'll never take this away. You have access. The minute you get this, you can have it forever. Send it to your relatives, have your family members use it. You know, whoever needs it can have it.
Evidently, 97% of us need it.
Well, you know what, Cindy Lou, I need it too. I mean, you know, 100% of us really need it. The 2.7% that are doing it, use it. You know, they use something like this.
Right.
So, yeah.